Stand with Ukraine. These words became a globally known expression. These words reflect a deep connection, true compassion, and the real support provided in many ways. How can coaches and coaching communities support Ukraine and professional coaches in Ukraine? What kind of cooperation has been created between ICF Ukraine Charter Chapter and ICF Chapters in different countries? What is possible to develop together now and in the nearest future? What are the challenges professional coaches are dealing with in this wartime? This and many related questions are in focus of our conversation today, which is happening on June 30th, 2022. This is a podcast, Coaches Stand with Ukraine. I'm Larissa Homans, transformational story coach and mentor, past president of ICF Ukraine, co-leader of partnership initiatives, volunteer, and co-host of this podcast. And I'm very glad to lead this podcast together with my dear colleague, Ola Vasilets, co-leader of partnership initiatives within ICF Ukraine Chapter 2, ICC coach, and volunteer. It's a big honor for Olga and me to have this conversation with our special guest, our partner. Ola, this microphone is yours, and you are introducing
Anna Schweppenhäuser. Anna is a master certified coach ICF, a member of the board of ICF Germany since 2019 from Bonn Ignite Virtual Education Podcast, mentor coach, senior coach, BDP, certified user of Hogan Assessment System, and certified as a narrative coach. In 2021, the book Quality Assurance in Coaching was published by describing the ICF core competencies in action, with contributions from the members of the ICF Germany's mentor group. Is managing partner of CCRO, Organisationsentwicklung, Stuttgart. She holds a degree in psychology with a focus on work and organizational psychology. Anna, nice to meet you here.
Nice to meet you again, Olya. Nice to meet you, Larissa. And it's my pleasure and my honor to be guest in your podcast.
I would like to add that Anna is a great professional who did really a lot to support Ukrainian coaches in difficult times. When I first met the expression stand with Ukraine, I felt a great inner response. This word stand means more for me than support and help. It includes these intentions, but for me, it is also about partnership in some very deep level. Coaches stand with Ukraine. Anna, what does it mean for you?
It means just not to be a bystander to a distant crisis. This war takes place on our doorsteps, and instead actively taking a stand and actively supporting those affected directly or indirectly, and to promote the awareness of what is really happening right now. And I was reminded of a quote by Erich Maria Remarque. I used to think everyone was against war until I found out that there were those who were for it, especially those who didn't have to go. Erich Maria Remarque is a German author who wrote about the First World War, and it was a book that impressed me a lot in school times. What makes me stand with Ukraine is that war ends life of people with hopes and desires, survivors who have seen suffering, death, and dying, coming back to their families in their villages and towns. They are different, and they are sometimes broken people. Nothing is like before, and the topic of guilt is invisible somehow in the room. For me, Coaches Stand with Ukraine means taking sides as a coach for the well-being of individuals at a war or on the run who have the confidence to open up for coaching in this very special and very difficult situation.
I also remember our first online conversation we had in the middle of March, very soon after the full-scale invasion happened, Russian invasion to independence Ukraine. Though we never met before, I had feeling that we know each other for some times. I remember, Anna, how you were listening, what we are sharing with you, how emotional our conversations were, and you were listening very deeply. And I hope it was a key ingredient that allowed us to move forward with very real actions. And we did it very quickly, and we are working now, knowing that ICF Germany became one of the several ICF chapters from different countries, which answered quickly and enthusiastically to our call, which came from ICF Ukraine for professional support. What was driving you and your colleagues to be with us?
As an ICF German board member, I've been deeply touched since the beginning of the war by the question of how ICF Germany can support the coaches of ICF Ukraine and the Ukrainians in Ukraine or on the run. That's why I sought contact with ICF Ukraine, and I met you and Olya, and we made our first podcast that was published on April 1st. And it is kind of a parallel because in early March 2002, we opened our 2-year-old ICF Germany Pro Bono initiative that is called Resilience Coaching. And it was originally for better coping with the pandemic to refugees from the Ukraine. And in this next step, we partnered with Leadership Choices, a business cooperation partner of ICF Germany, and they opened their digital coaching platform for the Ukrainians looking for coaching. And so far, 75 dedicated coaches worldwide are offering pro bono coachings for this purpose on that platform. And at this point, we would be very glad even if more Ukrainians would accept the pro bono coaching initiative of 1 to 5 hours of pro bono coaching and have a look on this web page or in this platform to find coach that would fit their needs in that moment. And since April, we are offering regular group coaching supervision sessions for the coaches from ICF Ukraine via Zoom. And since this time, Oksana Wevers, Karen Neumann, and I have been regularly via Zoom with the coach colleagues in the group coaching supervision sessions. And I'm really deeply touched when we talked about what would be an appropriate time for this group coaching supervision, that I was told, okay, evenings might not be that wonderful because in the evenings we put some dark woolen or things over our windows so that glass or windows are bursting are not coming into our apartments, and other things that made me deeply think about how safe I am in my Stuttgart environment and how unsafe it might or it must feel being in the Ukraine when there are wartime activities around.
Anna, thank you. And I would like to say that our colleagues from ICF Ukraine and me personally, we feel so many gratitude for everything you do to support us and to help us, you and your colleagues. Let me share some examples of feedback from ICF Ukraine coaches who participated group supervisions and what our coaches says about the results of this work. And the first one, deep study of personal requests, psychological support from colleagues and supervisor, emotional stabilization, conclusions that led to driving changes. The next one is emotional stabilization, you understanding, considering a work with clients and maintaining my own emotional stability during the work. And the last example, I've started to work with clients with more difficult requests and situations after supervision. It indicates my inner growth as a result of joint efforts in supervision group. And as I see, most of feedback comments are about sustainability, emotional stability, and resilience. So, Anna, what are your observations, lessons learned from these 3 months ongoing professional coaching connection?
To be honest, on first sight, the group coaching supervision is mostly about coaching, about the mindset of the coach, being effective for our clients, and very much as well about perspectives and the mindset as a coach in these challenging times. And I am deeply touched how intensively and honestly the colleagues from ICF Ukraine deal with their current situation inside and outside of Ukraine, and how much they long for resilience, their own resilience, and the end of this war. And it showed me as well to be very humble, because it's not easy task for the Ukrainian colleagues in these times to find the inner strength and empathy and focus for other clients and to be and to stay focused. And therefore, it's an honor and I feel asked to do that, to come and offer support for the ICF Ukrainian coaches that have been very dear to me throughout the last couple of months.
What I'm observing now, the coaches who are getting support from other professional coaches are becoming stronger in many ways, like you, Anna, mentioned. And when we started reaching other ICF Ukraine chapters, we are asking about professional support because coaches naturally, organically, from the bottom of their hearts, are willing to help other people, but to help those who are helping other people to feel stronger, to feel grounded, and to be able, as Oля mentioned, to deal with more challenging, more difficult requests which were coming in the wartime. It was our focus. And we are very open with you always from the beginning, and we are talking about many things. And one day we are talking about challenges, different types of challenges. Anna, what do you think? What are the biggest, or maybe the most uncovered, or the less evident challenges that professional coaches are facing now? I'm asking in this wartime on the global landscape.
Thank you for these questions, and it made me a lot of pondering around this question. And I like to focus at first around Ukraine. It made me think a lot of Viktor Frankl's thoughts about finding meaning in life. And he, based on his own experience in concentration camp during World War II, he observed how important it is to find meaning in one's own actions and to have a goal and to have a future in mind. And this is, having a goal and future in mind is, I think, something that went missing somehow throughout being in a war. So to have a balance about it, having goals, having future, and I sincerely wish to my fellow coaches in Ukraine that they will find this goal and have really a better future in mind. Because the situation currently, as far as I can relate to it, does not give that much hope for thinking about how might my future look like. And Viktor Frankl also spoke about the importance of having the will to make decisions as well in those challenging situations, to have humor and to make fun, sometimes fun about this, and to maintain morally strong and to stick to the own values, because not becoming emotional, blunted or brutalized this while seeing what people are seeing currently. And I think this is very important to be and to stay sensitive even in these difficult times, and not to get numb out of all these things that are going on, not only in Ukraine, but especially in Ukraine currently.
Communication with other coaches from all over the world helps to understand not only challenges for me personally, but strengths of coaching world, and to find common ground with those who are indifferent and who are full of compassion, understanding, and readiness to stand with us. And I remember our meeting within ICV 2022, where I delivered workshop for ICF Germany's audience, 5 coaching lessons I learned during the war. There were so many different thoughts and reactions, but especially I remember one lady who expressed her feelings and gave a lot of support during that meeting. And I realized that it resonates with coaches who are far from Ukraine. Anna, what do you think? What was creating coach kind of compassion, and what strengths of soul does it affect?
That's a difficult question. And perhaps, I suppose that it was you, Olya. You talked about that, what you found out with these 5 steps, in an honest way and in an open way, what currently is happening and what changed, and how to find words for the situation you were in at that moment in May and knowing that changes might come as well. And this direct honesty and this vulnerability that you showed opened the heart and opened the hearts to feel this kind of compassion. I think it needs more of those open conversation and deep conversation, that those strings of the soul are really affected, so that these people listening to each other really feel empathy and community around these topics. So thank you for showing up on this Saturday afternoon in the way you showed up and offering a glimpse of what's going on in your heart currently. So thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
I also remember that masterclass, even knowing what is happening in Ukraine and following with all this horrible, challenging news, and feeling this deep pain inside. But what Ola was sharing, for me, it was a kind of courage.
Mm-hmm.
It was example of how courage can help feel stronger. And I remember that the participants of that class were staying longer and they were sharing with more reflections. The question I'm going to ask you, Anna, is coming from that conversation. You are a very experienced coach. You are master certified coach. You are teaching, you are mentoring, you are supervising coaches. You mentioned that coaching is facing and coaches are facing with challenges, but how do you see the future of coaching in the way that coaching never would be the same before the war, during the war, and after the war? What is the future is waiting for us, or what kind of future coaches are creating?
I think the question you raised, the future of coaching, that's a real big question. And I think it's worth to meditate and to ponder around it even more. And what I'd like to express is that I have hope. And my hope is that the future of coaching is for the people to, or the coach or the client, but merely for people to meet in partnership, to accompany each other with compassion, with candor, and the ability and the empathy to support each other to make the living in families or the living in business environments and even in communities better. And with this kind of coaching, or probably only deep and honest conversations, this will contribute to the fact that every person finds more inner peace, so that there are no or less struggles inside, and as well more outer peace, so that more humanity and well-being is spread by the people of this planet to other places where perhaps there's not that much peace in that moment.
You mentioned about open conversation. I think this conversation need to happen at a different level, and especially at the level of those professional bodies and leaders of the professional bodies who are impacting the future of coaching. The courage, the clarity, and maybe higher level of leadership, partnership leadership should come up, if it's possible to say should.
Well, I think we will see what this kind of environment you're talking about, how this kind of environment will open up according to the challenges that coaches and coachings will have in the future, and as well how adaptable the definition of coaching will become to certain special situations. And I think, and I like to be involved in honest conversations as well with the professional bodies.
Anna, so I have the last question for this conversation. I feel that this question is very proper right now. Anna, what is your key message to everybody who will listen to this conversation? So not only the coaches, but leaders, volunteers, entrepreneurs, professionals from other supporting fields in Ukraine and abroad.
This is as well a huge question. And the first what comes to my mind is the ICF Code of Ethics. And ICF has called for us coaches to have responsibility towards society. and I take this, and this is very dear to me, and I take this very, very close to my heart. And we should strive to do good instead of preventing bad things. And there was a German philosopher who talked about to act in such way that the maxim of your will can at the same time be regarded as the principle of general legislation. It was Immanuel Kant. And thinking about, okay, is what you're doing and probably thinking in a way that you could bring it into a more general rule. And for me, it means to explore very diligently your own circle of influence. Where do I have direct influence as an individual? Where do I have influence in my family, at my place of work, in my community, in my professional associations I'm a member of, and in my country as well? And to find out where is the place to use this circle of influence for important things that are dear to my heart. And therefore, be aware of that you have influence and that you have a voice. And please use your voice to be aware and sensitive to what is happening and to raise awareness and move other people through compassion and by candor as well, not be longer remain silent, and not only stand with Ukraine in these war times, and to involve yourself in situations in your own community where you think, okay, a change is necessary here. And this is what I think might be my key message. Be aware that you have influence and that you have a voice, and that you might use this voice and this influence to better the situation in your direct or more indirect environment. Thank you for this question.
What you said, Anna, is resonating deeply. And again, ICF Ukraine started leading this conversation, at least initiating this conversation. The chapter conducted the open event, the open discussion about ethical dilemmas. I think the next conversation among the podcast guests will be definitely about ethics, professional ethics, human values, and the responsibility before society.
Yes, I think this is a great idea, and I'm looking forward to listen in to your next podcast as well.
We'll share with you. Time is flying fast. There were many wise thoughts and vital observations, which uncover even more challenging aspects of life itself and professional realities. We are in not only coaching realities, but professional realities in different ways. Anna, thank you very much for being our conversational partner today. We are developing partnership with you and your colleagues from ICF Germany, so we'll keep communicating.
For everybody who will be listening to this podcast, please share your comments, questions, thoughts, ideas. Let's stay connected. You can see Larissa's and my contact below. Once again, it was our privilege to talk to Anna Schweppenhäuser. She is a Master Certified Coach ICF, a member of the board of ICF Germany since 2019, Pro Bono Ignite, Virtual Education, Podcast, Mentor Coach, Senior Coach, VDP, certified user of the Hogan Assessment System, and certified as a narrative coach. In 2021, the book Quality Assurance in Coaching was published, describing the ICF competencies in action with contribution from the members of ICF Germany's mentor group. Anna is managing partner in CSRO Organisationsentwicklung, Stuttgart. She holds a degree in psychology with a focus on work and organizational psychology.
I only can add thank you, Anna, again, and your colleagues for standing with Ukraine and becoming very important partners for us at this challenging time. And thank you, Olga Vasilais, for co-hosting this podcast. More talks are coming. Stay tuned, stay connected, and stay with Ukraine.